Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight we have a late night insight video. So this is just going to be a quick hit video, just a high level overview on a perfume that I've been very smitten with, and really just a quick house overview because this is a fragrance house that I've never done a video on my channel before. So I love bringing these new houses to you guys, and this is one where if you're like me and you love the artisanal houses, I've been big into the artisanal houses the last year. So the Bortnikovs, the Areej Dores, the Ensars of the world, the Rising Phoenixes, those type of houses, Sultan Pasha, stuff like that, right? This actually falls into that category to me. And it's a newcomer house, I believe. It just started a couple years ago, back in 2021. But the gentleman says he's been playing with oils for himself, for his own enjoyment, if you will, since 2012. But he's still, I think, self-taught, relatively new to the scene, but I'm very impressed with what I've been smelling, especially the quality of the materials in this scent. Fantastic. I mean, I'm going to talk about a fragrance today that is a rose-based fragrance. Well, there's other stuff going on, but one of the most beautiful rose fragrances I've ever smelled in my journey. It actually competes with my unicorn rose that I would love to find a bottle of one day, Malik Taif, but I keep talking about how much I love it, and I'm sure I'm driving the prices up and up and up, so I'll probably never find a bottle. But the fragrance we're going to talk about today is from the house of Katana Perfumes, all right? And so this is, well, just the house is just called Katana, and the fragrance is called Khaan, Khaan, and that's actually named after the great Genghis Khan. So a couple things right off of the bat. I've reviewed on this channel some amazing rose fragrances, and what's funny is when I first started my journey, well, when I first really started to get into perfume over the last decade or so, there was a fragrance called Amouage Lyric Man. I'll show you. I ended up getting a bottle. I ended up breaking down and buying myself a bottle of Lyric, okay? And so Lyric Man is, I'll review this on the channel one of these days, but it's kind of a soapy, green, incensey. There's an angelica note in here, which is absolutely beautiful, but the rose comes across as very fresh and slightly soapy, but very feminine smelling originally. When I first smelled this fragrance for the first time, I had a mini, okay? And I had like a little sample. And I put it on my skin and I was like, no way, roses. No way this is for me. Maybe I just don't like rose. I actually ended up giving it to my mother, okay? I gave the little sample to my mom. And then years went by and I kept thinking about Lyric Man. And I went back to it and I absolutely loved it, okay? And so rose is one of those things that I think many men in the West have a hard time opening up to. But once you open up to rose, you realize just how brilliant it is. Russian Adam, who I've said it before, but some of the absolute best content I've ever put out on my channel are the 4 or 5 interviews I've done with Russian Adam. It's been a joy and an honor to get to put those videos up for you guys. And one of the things he said that always stuck with me is, you just can't help but smile when you smell true, proper, high-quality rose oil. And that's how I feel with some of these really high-end rose fragrances that I've discussed on the channel. So my all-time favorite, Unicorn. I only have a couple drops left. If you know, you know. Malik Taif, the king of Taif. Go watch my video on this if you want to kind of get a feel for my favorite rose fragrance of all time. But when a fragrance comes out and I can compare it to this, you know it's in good company. And to me, Khaan by the House of Katana falls into this category. Now, I still much prefer Malik Taif because this is done in the Russian Adam style, meaning he knows how to use those animalics. As beautiful as Khaan is, I'll tell you right out of the gate, the first hour, to me, the first hour is absolutely brilliant. It's fantastic. It actually may even go head-to-head with Malik Taif. But for the next 9 or 10 hours, this really falls off. And, you know, I reviewed a fragrance on the channel from the House of Spirit of Dubai called Nargesi within the last 6 or 7 months, I believe. And Nargesi had a very similar issue. Beautiful, brilliant Taif rose, Damask rose opening, Bulgarian rose, absolutely stunning, 5-star opening. And then, you know, it just falls. It doesn't fall apart in the base, but it loses the brilliance of the opening, right? That floral, floriental, if you want to call it that, feel starts to dissipate, and you just lose the beauty of the opening. But Malik Al Taif keeps it for the whole 9-10 hours. I mean, it lasts a long time. And this one, Khaan, so I'm going to do just a little bit of a fresh spray. This atomizer has a little bit of a problem. Also, I just have to say thank you to Hari for sending this to me. I'm just trying to get a couple drops out because it's got a... Atomizer has a little bit of an issue on this one. But, oh, it's so good. So the first thing that you smell, all of these different types of rose that just hit you at once, okay? And I've got a list of the different roses here. So there's Turkish damask rose, Indian damask rose, Indian rose, Saudi Arabian Taif rose, the real deal, and Himalayan jasmine. And actually, let me read it to you the way that the brand writes it. So here's what they say. Khaan is a creation inspired by the Emperor Genghis Khan, a very complex perfume, rich in noble ingredients as the history of the Mongolian Empire. Here we find ingredients from the four corners of the world: rose of Taif from Saudi Arabia, the rose of Damascus of Isparta in Turkey, the damask rose from India, the rue gulab as they call it, the Sambak jasmine from the Himalayas, the oud from Cambodia, and the oud here is very sort of slightly resinous, slightly kind of a little bit like the Thai oud I talked about today in the Prin Lomros video that I did earlier today. You can go check that one out if you want to see Prin's take on a Thai oud, which was very resinous and you know, almost latex smelling, almost latex-like in smell, and you know, somewhat fruity. And this one has this resinous, slight fruity feel to it from the oud. And then on top of that, green mandarin from Italy. And the green mandarin in the opening smells very, very fresh and tart. And it gives just this bitter sort of contrast to the beautiful rose. And of course, the famous Siberian musk from Russia. So this brand, the reason I'm comparing it with Areej Dore and Bortnikov and all of that stuff is because they use the real ingredients. They're using real deer musk. They're using real oud. They're using real proper rose otto. So I actually have some Taif rose, actual Taif rose here, my favorite rose of all time. And I don't get to do this very often, so this is a little bit of a treat. But since I'm smelling a proper Taif rose fragrance, I'm just going to dip the tip, just the tip, into the rose oil. And, oh my God. Oh, it is, it's literally one of the most beautiful smells on earth to me. I could just see a emperor, a king, you know, a sultan just being covered in Taif rose. It's so lemony and fresh, and also there is this sort of slight tea-like smell to Taif rose, to proper Taif rose. Just a brilliant, absolutely brilliant ingredient, and extremely, extremely expensive. Very, very expensive. I'm going to let that sit for a bit because, wow. I mean, I don't know if you can see the tip there. I could just smell this. I mean, I could just sit here and smell that. It's so absolutely beautiful. So this, what basically happens is, it's a very complex, it's one of those fragrances where every single ingredient just seems to shine. You know, the groupings of roses all do their job and create this beautiful rose accord. One of the most beautiful I've smelled, I would say. Honestly, like top 5 rose fragrances I've smelled in my life. And the beginning of the fragrance, one of the things I truly like about it, the thing that I really like about the opening, and see, even now it's losing it in the dry down. This is only about an hour to an hour and a half old, this little spray here. And already it's losing this sort of, indolic element to the florals. I really like the animalic, indolic element to the jasmine in this. And it comes across as smelling because the rose really takes over and the jasmine sort of plays the background, if you will. You know, it adds a little bit of a honeyed aspect to it, and it adds a little bit of a powdery aspect, but most importantly, it adds this indolic, animalic, somewhat animalic floral aspect to the top. And when you mix it with that oud and all of these different types of roses, it's a brilliant, brilliant first hour. The first hour of this is 5 stars. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love the first hour. What the brand says is be prepared for an olfactory journey on the plains between Russia and Asia. You will be transported through the history of the Mongolian conquerors that leaves an indelible trace as Genghis Khan, the conqueror. So on Lucky Scent, okay, 30 mils is $320. On the actual Katana Parfums website, it says 30 mils is $352. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe they've had a price hike and Lucky Scent hasn't picked it up yet or bought the new batch, or I don't know what's going on. But either way, $320 to $352 is retail, let's say. And so let me tell you a little bit about the house. Since this is a new house, here's the backstory according to the brand. It says, we all share a common point, the passion and love for qualitative artisanal perfume, symbol of well-being and leisure. It began in 2012 with my surprising acquisition of traditional oils and incense from India. After studying these products, I found that most of the noble ingredients such as oud in its raw form were found in the Asian part of the world. From this came the idea to establish my own perfumes, my own attars for personal use with unprocessed raw products. Being in love with nature and fascinated by what our planet has to offer in terms of wealth, I composed and transformed these products with dedication. Being genuinely creative and above all, a dedicated entrepreneur, I love to sublimate the product like a rough diamond lying at the bottom of the earth, agonizing, dusty, dirty, in order to return it to its final destiny, a jewel, a gem. To transform a rough product into a refined and defined one is extraordinary. I find it very satisfying on a personal and spiritual level to please my customers. I initiated the brand Katana Parfums at the beginning of 2021. It is a symbol of Asia, power, ancestral, and sharp, like I do on my handmade elaborations. Let me help you to discover luxurious and harmonious elixirs. And this gentleman's name is Alp Veliogulari. Alp is his first name, last name Veliogulari. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so it's a small type of operation. I mean, his email is literally katanaparfums@gmail.com. And so I think somebody like this would probably look up to somebody like Russian Adam, or look up to somebody like Dmitry Bortnikov, or, look up to somebody like Ensar Oud. The way that his fragrances smell, even though this is the first video I've done on one of his fragrances, it is not the first time that this brand has been discussed on my channel. It's a little bit of an obscure video, but there was a blind sniffing episode that I did, and I forget which one, but somebody sort of put a little blind sniff in there. I didn't know what it was, and I smelled it, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And I looked it up. I was like, what is this? And sure enough, it was a Katana Parfum fragrance. And on the live stream, you can hear me say, this is going to be expensive, isn't it? Sure enough, it was expensive. His stuff is not cheap. But if you're into these type of artisanal fragrances, like I've been really getting into, the Areej, Dores, Bortnikovs, and Ensars, this is another brand to kind of explore, and it's quality stuff. The only thing is, I wouldn't pay retail for this, okay? Unless I was just absolutely made of money, and I could sit there and every couple hours just reapply. If you could just reapply and you don't care, and you burn through your 30 ml bottle in 6 months or something, or whatever it is, right? And you would just go buy another one, you don't care about the 350 bucks. This is fantastic stuff. For me, I really, really like the opening. The dry down, it's not that the dry down is bad. It just gets very gentle and soft on my skin. And I really, really like the opening. I had a very similar problem with Nargesi. Nargesi is a fantastic fragrance by Spirit of Dubai. That is 3 times as much, 4 times as much as this Katana we're talking about, but you get 90 mils instead of 30 mils. So, you know, I think I would rather have the Katana, to be honest with you. But Nargesi is a beautiful, brilliant. If you're someone that just wants to reapply and you don't care, Nargesi's first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, one of the most amazing 15 minutes of a rose opening I've ever smelled. But my all-time favorite is still Malik Taif. So, you know, there's a lot of interesting ingredients in Khaan, okay? So Khaan has the real deer musk, the oud from Cambodia. The oud is, like I said, slightly resinous and fruity. The musk adds this natural, powdery, almost pissy element, and you can get it in the opening. And you definitely get it into the dry down. The real deer musk is one of the things that sticks, but what happens is that rose, that Taif, and oh man, and you know what's so crazy about real rose autos is like this particular Taif rose that I'm smelling right now. They come across as almost like you know, almost like you put a bunch of green leaves and stems in the blender and mixed it with rose petals. That's how all of them smell. Even this one comes across green, but also, like I said earlier, very tea-like. It's just such a beautiful, relaxing scent. It's just so gorgeous. The saffron is noticeable in this composition as well. You know, it's definitely a rose saffron. You get actually, there's a lot of saffron in here. It's a really noticeable note, maybe even the second noticeable note in the opening behind that rose. The rose just takes center stage. It's so beautiful. That rose blend of the Turkish damask rose, Indian damask rose, Indian rose, Saudi Arabian Taif rose, and then the Himalayan jasmine rounding out the florals there with pink lotus. But the saffron is very heavy in the opening. Very heavy. That chemical-like saffron smell is very opening. And it gives off this beautiful floriental smell with that animalic indolic feel, right? So the rose is very majestic smelling, especially in the first hour. It really smells sort of lemony, tart, fruity, fresh, and very green. And so with Malik Taif, if you remember the story, if you watched my video, one of the things they did is they actually separated each and every petal from the bulb when they distilled this juice for the roses in here. That's very rare attention to detail. Usually they won't do that. And the oud comes across more prominently in here, as does the deer musk. You know, that slight animalic touch to the oud is more prominent in Malik Taif. Whereas here it's not as animalic, and that's why I was saying, for me, Malik Taif is still the king and probably will always be the king. But that sort of green touch that is, you know, Malik Taif literally feels like you're falling onto a bed of Taif rose petals, because that's how it was built, with them picking out each individual petal. And, you know, this Khaan, you get a beautiful natural rose, but it's slightly green, slightly spicy, slightly green. And that slightly green aspect is kind of what you would expect. You don't expect just getting the petals, you know, that's a rarity. But that little bit of green touch, I actually really like it in here. Wow, I mean, just a brilliant opening. It's the dry down that, for something with these type of ingredients, Cambodian oud, Siberian deer musk, and rose in the base, you would expect it to be more interesting. It just sort of, it just dies away on my skin. The musk just kind of turns into soft powders, and that's all that seems to be left after a couple hours. That's the problem with Khaan. If you're made of money and you can just reapply, absolutely beautiful opening. I'd just rather smell the real thing. I mean, at that point, because that's really what you're going for. But definitely a brand to keep up with. Definitely a brand I would love to try more of. Special shout out to, I believe it was Hari, who sent me these very generous decants of this very expensive juice. So thank you, Hari. Very much appreciate it, my friend. And if you have experience with the brand of Katana or Khaan or any of the other, you know, fragrances from this house, this new house, It's my absolute pleasure to bring this house to you because, you know, if you've been into these artisanal houses, this is one definitely to try to get your nose on. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave it in the comments. Appreciate everyone watching. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.